At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
A mochi moment from Mark, who writes, I just want to thank you for making GLP-1s affordable. What would have been over $1,000 a month is just $99 a month with Mochi. Money shouldn't be a barrier to healthy weight. 3 months in, and I have smaller jeans and a bigger wallet. You're the best. Thanks, Mark. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Mark is a Mochi member compensated for his story.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised.
My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the disappearance of Amber Barker. On the evening of December 18, 1997, 10-year-old Amber Barker from Oklahoma City was doing something that I think almost every kid growing up in the 90s could relate to. She was making the short trip of about 5 blocks from her friend's house back home, racing to make it back before dark and before the streetlights came on. But Amber never made it home. This is the case of Amber Barker. Just before 6 p.m. on Thursday, December 18, 1997, Bonnie Parker was at her home in Oklahoma City when her youngest daughter Amber called home from her friend Katie's house. Amber's a little nervous. The rule is that she's supposed to be home before sunset, and she's running a little late. She doesn't want to get in trouble. But Bonnie tells her don't worry about that, just get home. I imagine that Amber lets out a little sigh of relief. Then she says goodbye to her friend and hops on her bike to make the about 3-minute ride home. Now, this is something Amber did all the time. The route was about a half mile, really just 5 blocks in her neighborhood. But for Bonnie, she said something felt different this time. Call it mother's intuition, paranoia, or something else, but she says something inside her felt like she might never see Amber again. So as time began to pass, the 3 minutes it should have taken Amber to get home, another 10 minutes, and then 15, and Amber still wasn't home. Bonnie took action immediately. She confirmed with Katie's parents that Amber left on her bike right after making that phone call. So Bonnie began driving around the neighborhood to look for her. But she didn't see Amber or her bike anywhere. And at 7:20 p.m., Bonnie reported her daughter missing to the Oklahoma City Police Department. And they put out the following description. Amber is 10 years old, a white female, 5 feet tall, and weighed 80 pounds. She has long brown hair, last seen wearing it half up and half down. She has pierced ears. And she was last seen wearing a beige long-sleeve sweater with a brown collar, black jeans, and a pair of No Excuses brand sneakers. This was completely out of character for Amber. She had no history of running away and was close with her mom and the rest of her family. She also really didn't like being out after dark. Bonnie says that while Amber was a tough kid who liked working on cars and aspired to be a welder when she grew up, she would still get scared at night. She didn't like to sleep in her room and would usually fall asleep with Bonnie. So Amber just taking off on her bike as it's getting dark seemed very unlikely. Luckily, the Oklahoma City PD took the report seriously and began searching right away. And Amber's case sees the response that every case of a missing person should be so lucky to receive. It was a huge community effort. Officers, neighbors, and Amber's family searched. They went door to door, and they even stopped motorists to ask if they'd seen Amber. This initial search focused on the area bordered by Northwest 45th Street to Northwest 10th Street and Lake Hefner Parkway to May Avenue. It's about 2.5 square miles. But as the minutes and then hours ticked by, another concern came to the forefront. While the weather wasn't extremely harsh that winter, it was still cold, around 35 degrees on average, and Amber was still nowhere to be found. But they did find one thing, something so small that it kind of feels like a miracle for it to have been found at all. That evening, one of Amber's sisters found a piece of her jewelry in the road. It was a small silver ring. According to reporting by Robert Medley for the Daily Oklahoman, this ring was found in the street along Drexel Boulevard, right on Amber's route home. But that was it. There was no other sign of Amber or where she may have gone. And that night, for the first time in a long time, her mother Bonnie slept without her daughter by her side.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. It's been about 12 hours since 10-year-old Amber Barker went missing along her half-mile bike ride home. And on Friday morning, investigators, volunteers, and Amber's family hit the ground running looking for her. They're also now joined by about 35 FBI agents. At this point, investigators aren't saying definitively that Amber was abducted, but the FBI was called in to explore this possibility. Truly, it seems like it was all hands on deck to find Amber. And these efforts really did pay off. At 10:37 a.m., they find a crucial piece of evidence. Amber's blue 10-speed bike was found next to a tree in Denison Park. This is at Northwest 25th Street and Drexel Boulevard, 1.3 miles from her home. There was no damage to the bike, and there was also no sign of Amber or where she may have gone. But it felt like they were getting one step closer to finding her. Despite these massive, immediate efforts to find Amber and the progress that they were making, her community was still rightfully scared. Amber was in the 4th grade at James Monroe Elementary School, and that Friday, the 19th, was the last day of classes before the holiday break. A kindergarten teacher at the school, Donna Dixon, who lived on Drexel between Amber's home and where her bike was found, said that there were a lot of tears at the school that day, and that no one was out riding their bike like they normally would be. The school principal, Melissa Lawson, told the media that it was hard for them to have their Christmas parties while Amber was still missing, but she encouraged the kids to have hope that Amber would be found. In addition to speaking with the kids from Amber's school, investigators even went to nearby Madison Elementary to ask their students where kids would go play. There were also police cars all over the area, at local parks, and near storm drainage canals. So while it's amazing to have the case of a missing child spread so quickly throughout the community, it was also just a really scary time for them. Especially because at this point, there was such little information, and it seemed like law enforcement wasn't ruling anything out. But as Amber's aunt, Joan Barker, was handing out flyers, she gets a new tip. A man says that he saw Amber riding her bike in front of the Drexel condominiums on Drexel Boulevard, near a boy who was selling candy in the street. Now, this is literally right around the corner from Amber's house, and again, right along her route home. But the trouble was, this man says that he saw Amber at 5:25 p.m., and we know that Amber didn't leave her friend Katie's house until about 25 minutes later at 5:50 p.m. Now, we know that eyewitness statements aren't always accurate, but unfortunately, we don't know if maybe he just got his time wrong or if it wasn't Amber at all. As far as I could find, this sighting has never been officially confirmed. But it is kind of backed up by another witness. They say that they saw Amber again on Drexel Boulevard near her home at 5:50 p.m. Either way, it seems that whatever happened, Amber probably did make it to Drexel Boulevard. 2 eyewitness accounts, her silver ring found in the street, and her bike all place her along this road at this point. So Drexel Boulevard seems to be the key. And as they investigate further, they find basically a trail of Amber's things along this road. Just before midnight, one of Amber's shoes was found at Northwest 12th Street and Drexel Boulevard, 2.3 miles from her home. At 9 a.m. on Saturday, December 20th, Amber's other shoe was found at Northwest 13th Street and Drexel Boulevard, just 1 block from the first shoe. And at 1:40 p.m., Amber's sweater was found near some bushes at Northwest 15th Street and Drexel Boulevard, about 3 miles from her home. They didn't have Amber, but it felt like they were getting closer. Now, just like the police and Amber's loved ones, the local media also took action immediately, and Bonnie began to make public pleas for her daughter's return. She said that she missed her, she wanted her home, especially for Christmas. She asked that whoever had her to please not hurt her, just let her go. And really, I am truly amazed at how quickly everyone came together for Amber. Shannon McCrossan, the mother of missing 8-year-old Kirsten Hatfield, stood by Bonnie's side that night. Kirsten went missing in May of 1997 from Midwest City, Oklahoma, about 15 miles from Bonnie and Amber's home. Kirsten's case isn't thought to be related to Amber's, but obviously Shannon knew what Bonnie was going through. She said, quote, "We are mothers, and we are not going to stop being mothers until they are found," end quote. Just as a quick side note, in 2015, Anthony Palma was charged with the first-degree murder of Kirsten. He was sentenced to life in prison, but he was killed in 2019 by his cellmate. Kirsten's remains have never been found. But at this time, Kirsten was still missing, and her case was unsolved. So knowing exactly what Bonnie and her family are going through, Shannon rushed to her side to offer her support. At this point, it's clear that whatever happened to Amber probably wasn't good. And it seemed like everyone came together to help find her and support her family during this time. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse, so I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
After Amber's ring, bike, shoes, and sweater were all found along Drexel Boulevard, law enforcement shifts a lot of their focus from physical searches to the developing investigation. They set up a command post and were using a computer program called Rapid Start to help organize the influx of tips. According to reporting by Robert Davis for USA Today, the program was used to help the FBI compare information about one crime with others, and not only helps organize tips, but really cross-reference them with other things like registered drivers in the area, vehicles, hunters, and even flights. It's been used to help solve cases of serial child predators, and they even used it in the 9/11 attacks. For 1997, it's pretty advanced technology, and investigators immediately homed in on 24-year-old Daniel John Smith. He was the common-law husband of Amber's older sister Debbie, who was 22 at this time. Now, just for some context, Amber comes from a very large family. She's the youngest of Bonnie and Robert Baker's 8 children. They have 6 girls and 2 boys. Bonnie and Robert got divorced about a decade ago after 36 years of marriage while Bonnie was pregnant with Amber. And while the entire custody agreement for each child isn't crystal clear, Amber was living with her mom at the time. And Debbie was older. She'd moved out and had a child with Daniel John Smith. In 1996, the year before Amber went missing, Smith was found guilty of kidnapping after carjacking a vehicle and attempting to sexually assault the woman inside outside of an Oklahoma City nightclub. Now, thank goodness she was able to fight him off and run to safety. He was facing a 10-year maximum sentence, but through a plea deal, Smith was only sentenced to 5 years and a 4-month boot camp program for young adults at the William S. Key Correctional Center. Now, this is actually despite him catching another charge for telling the security guard at his hearing, quote, "As soon as I get out, you're a dead man," end quote. But apparently because he did so well in this boot camp, this charge was dropped, and the 5-year sentence was deferred. So he was back on the streets after 4 months, and it wasn't long before he had another encounter with police. The month before Amber went missing, police were called to Smith's home because Amber's sister Debbie reported that he hit her after she refused his sexual advances. Smith was given a citation for this incident but was not arrested. After that, Debbie took their child and moved to Oregon. But Daniel Smith was still a frequent visitor at the Baker home, according to some reporting, because he didn't believe she'd actually left the state. And this is really where the investigation seems to take a very odd and disturbing turn. At this point, investigators are interviewing pretty much everyone in and around the family and giving everyone polygraph tests. When investigators speak with Smith shortly after Amber went missing, he tells them that he was actually at the house when Bonnie got that last phone call from her. It looks like he came over to talk about Debbie taking their child out of state. Something I think is safe to assume he probably wasn't happy about. According to court records, after the call ended, Smith immediately left the house in a direction that, quote, would have put him in line to have met up with Amber as she was headed home, end quote. But Smith and Bonnie weren't the only people present for that phone call. 19-year-old Joseph Bishop, who was dating Amber's other sister Brandy at the time, was also at the house when Amber called. He confirms that Smith left immediately after the phone call and left in the direction that Amber likely would have been traveling home. But he adds more. He says Smith left the house in a different direction than he normally did when going home. He says Smith went west instead of east. But Smith says that he can explain this. He says that he wasn't actually headed home. Instead, he tells investigators that after leaving Amber's house, he went to look for Debbie's car. He couldn't find it, so he went to a club, drank beer, and then just drove around drinking more. It's unclear if this alibi has ever been confirmed. And for some reason, despite many witnesses placing Smith in the Barker home during that phone call, Amber's mom Bonnie told reporters for the Oklahoman that Robert Smith wasn't at her home when Amber called. She said he left before she even got there. So we have Robert Smith and Joseph Bishop telling investigators that Smith was present for the phone call, and we have Bonnie saying that that didn't happen. Whether Bonnie just misremembered the timeline or was for some reason being deceptive is unclear. But if all of this wasn't enough to put Smith on police radar, Amber's father, Robert, told investigators that Amber was afraid of Smith because he tried to force her into his truck on the 17th, the day before Amber went missing. And this is confirmed by Amber's brother, Eddie. He tells investigators that Amber told him the same thing, adding that Amber had to run inside the house to get away. So it appears that, according to Amber, Smith tried to kidnap her the day before she went missing. Now, obviously, at this point, investigators want to speak to Smith again. They ask him to come back down for a polygraph test, and he doesn't show up. He also misses a mandatory AA meeting, which was a violation of his parole. So while he's not an official suspect in Amber's disappearance, a warrant for his arrest is issued. On Sunday, December 21st, investigators find his truck at a local convenience store about 16 miles from Amber's home. And the following day, on the 22nd, Cynthia Chung with the Daily Oklahoman even publishes an entire article about their search for Smith. It's titled, "Police Seek Missing Girl's Relative." The article details Smith's history and a lot of what I already told you. There are quotes from law enforcement stating that Smith isn't a suspect and Amber's sister was cooperating with the investigation. The article gives a description of Smith along with his vehicle, a 1987 silver Mitsubishi pickup with black pinstripes and a blue interior. But unfortunately, police weren't able to find him. And on that same day the article ran in the Daily Oklahoman, volunteers searching Ray Trent Park in Del City, Oklahoma, found him hanging from a tree over a creek at 11:30 a.m. There were paper bags around his hands, and the medical examiner found amphetamines and an antidepressant in his system. His death was ruled a suicide. Christmas, Amber's favorite holiday, came and went without any definitive answers. But the investigation was still ongoing, and after months of waiting, the results of testing Amber's items found along Drexel Boulevard came back, and they painted a very disturbing picture of Amber's possible last moments. After forensic testing was completed on Amber's belongings found along Drexel Boulevard, this is what they find. There was a small amount of blood on one of Amber's shoes, but the sample was so small they weren't able to confirm who it belonged to. And I just want to warn you that this next part is really hard to hear. Vomit, possible ejaculate, and foreign blue fibers were found on her sweater. Amber's pants and underwear were never found. Despite all the circumstantial evidence seemingly linking Smith to Amber's disappearance, like the blue interior of the truck and blue fibers on her sweater, his location while she went missing, his criminal history, Amber telling people about this attempted kidnapping, they never found physical evidence linking Smith to Amber. Amber's sister Debbie did say years later that she didn't believe Smith kidnapped Amber, or that he took his own life. She added that she knows who did, but she won't name them. Bonnie, on the other hand, maintained that she believes Smith at least knew something, but unfortunately, anything he may have known about Amber, he took with him to his grave. Bonnie ended up moving out of their home in 1998, saying, quote, "I always drive by there, just thinking maybe she's been by there and left some kind of clue, or maybe somebody else has. I think about her constantly. She was my little angel. I just wish someone would come forward with something." End quote. Life for the Barkers would continue to be full of tragedy. Robert Barker passed away in 2007 at 60 years old. And in 2013, Amber's 40-year-old sister, Brandy K. Perry, allegedly drowned in a series of storms that swept through Oklahoma. She was found in a ditch 20 feet from where she was living. But the ditch had no water in it, and there was no flood damage to the area. So many people disagreed with the claim that she drowned, even going as far to say that there was no storm on the day that Brandy died. And this is backed by police. Chief Deputy Chris Kahn said, quote, "She had some kind of head injury or something like that. Looked like she slipped and fell and hit her head. We just don't believe she's a storm victim." End quote. Bonnie also didn't believe that her daughter was a storm victim, saying that Brandy, who allegedly struggled with mental health and substance use disorder, was experiencing domestic violence from her ex-boyfriend. Bonnie said, quote, "She's not a storm victim. I don't know if she committed suicide. I don't know if somebody killed her. I don't know what happened. But she didn't die in a storm." End quote. Bonnie passed away in 2014 at 64 years old, never knowing the truth about what happened to either of her daughters. But just the next year, in 2015, Amber's case saw some movement. Investigators with the Oklahoma PD Crimes Against Children unit were assigned to Amber's case and looking over it with fresh eyes, and really fresh new technology. In 1997, they weren't able to extract a DNA profile from Amber's items. But over a decade later, the vomit and possible ejaculate on Amber's sweater was used to form a partial DNA profile for an unknown man. And this led investigators right back to Daniel Smith. Or really, Daniel Smith's friend, Forrest J. Rice. He also goes by the name Stephen Brent Henley, among a slew of other aliases. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to use the name Rice. Early in the investigation, Rice told detectives that he was with Daniel Smith the night Amber went missing. It seems that they were just hanging out at Rice's apartment. And Rice also admitted that he was with Smith the day he died. Rice has an extensive criminal history for things like burglary, drug trafficking, possession of a controlled substance, threatening acts of violence or bodily harm, eluding police, and a ton more. His rap sheet starts in 1996, the year before Amber went missing, and his last conviction was in June of 2022 for second-degree burglary. That landed him a 6-year sentence. But going back to 2015 and the timeline of Amber's investigation, he was being held at the Oklahoma City Correction Center when investigators obtained a search warrant for his DNA to compare to the new profile extracted from Amber's sweater. And Rice wasn't the only person named in court documents. It appears that investigators were revisiting Joseph Bishop, too, the 19-year-old boyfriend of one of Amber's sisters who was also there for the phone call. Neither man was named an official suspect in the investigation, and Bishop spoke freely to News 9 in January 2015. He had since moved to Dallas, Texas, and he said that he still had nightmares about the case. He says he still wants to know what happened, and hoped that Amber's family would get the answers that they were seeking. But unfortunately, you know that since I'm here today telling you about Amber's case, that didn't happen. The partial profile from Amber's sweater wasn't a match to anyone. Or if it was, investigators haven't disclosed that to the public. And that's pretty much where Amber's case is today. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has released 2 age-progressed photos of Amber, showing what she may look like at 21 and 33 years old. Charles Pickett, senior case manager at NECMEG in 2007, told the Daily Oklahoman, quote, "There's a high probability that the child was a victim of homicide, but the case is still open and the investigation is ongoing." End quote. The Oklahoma City Police Department has also said that Amber's case will remain open until she's found. Sergeant Gary Knight with the OCPD said, quote, "Investigators believe that someone knows the whole story, or at least enough of the story to put the pieces together. And after all these years, we still want to hear from that person. That information is still vital to this case." End quote. Which brings me right to our call to action. Please share Amber's case. As far as we know, the last time forensic evidence in this case was tested was over a decade ago now. We know how much can change in 10 years. How many new samples can be put into databases during that time? So please share Amber's case. It just might be the push that the police need to allocate some funds for further testing, or another set of fresh eyes to push the case forward. As a reminder, Amber Renee Barker was 10 years old when she went missing from Oklahoma City on December 18, 1997. She is a white female. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 feet tall, weighed 80 pounds, and had long brown hair. Her ears are pierced. She was last seen wearing a beige, long-sleeve sweater with a brown collar, black jeans, and a pair of No Excuses brand sneakers. Anyone with information is asked to call the Oklahoma City Police Department Missing Persons Unit at 405-297-1000, or Crime Stoppers at 405-235-7300. A reward is available. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. This episode contains writing and research assistance by Rebecca. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and totally free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. The door is open, and our emotional support puppies, Heber and Popcorn, are in the room with us. As you guys probably noticed, I was off last week, and it really couldn't have come at a better time. There's been, I guess I could call it a new development in Alyssa's case, and I can't really share it just yet, but it did take up a ton of my time. It is still taking up some time, which is fine. Obviously, I'm more than happy to dedicate that time to it. Yeah, like I said, I can't say much, but I am trying to remain hopeful. So that break couldn't have come at a better time, and just know that while things are weird and feel like they're at a standstill in Alyssa's case, there are still things happening behind the scenes that I'm attending to, and just the mission's just a little different now. Especially publishing everything on social media or even here. There are things that I don't want my dad to see, because I don't want him to have like a leg up on this information. And I don't want to say much more, but I just wanted to again let you know that there are things happening behind the scenes. Thank you for your support in that. Let's move on to Amber's case. I actually covered Amber's case because I was tagged in a TikTok about her. So many people tagged me, they were commenting, and I wanted to help. And I wanted to tell you how I found her case, because sharing works. Tagging your favorite creator works. I know that creators can't get to each and every request. It is like one of the hardest, most unexpected things I've encountered in true crime. I always say one of the hardest things is not being able to help everybody I want to, not being able to get back to all these families right away, not being able to get to them all. It feels like there's a never-ending list of cases. But again, I just wanted to tell you that because I do think that sharing, tagging your favorite creator does work. I've seen that there's been some more recent coverage of Amber's case too, which I have to imagine might stem from the TikTok. I don't know. So that's how I found it. Sharing works. Please keep sharing. And really, I think so many people can relate to Amber's case. I mean, 1997, she was 10. I was born in 88. Grew up in the 90s, like so many of us out there. And there's just something so upsetting and disheartening about these cases of kids doing really things they should be able to do without fear of losing their lives. Like, I can't tell you how many times I walked, really like a similar distance. I think it was 3 or 4 blocks to my best friend Renee's house. How many times I took that route without somebody with me, without an older sibling, without a parent. And I know that so many of us can relate to feeling safe in your neighborhood and just walking to a neighbor's house, walking to your friend's house, biking to your friend's house, and not having to worry about it. And also that rule of like, be back home before dark, be back home before the streetlights come on. There's something that is just so relatable about Amber's experience. And again, just crazy to me that kids cannot even go to their friend's house without being in danger. Now, I did want to say a little something about Amber's mom, Bonnie, and what she said to the police. She said that Smith wasn't there when she got the phone call, but she also said that she thought it could be him. I've seen, Amber's mom slammed in some forums and stuff about intentionally lying to police and what is she covering up. And I just want to say that, from what I could find, we don't really know that that's the case. I did include it because that's fair to Amber's case. I know that I tend to stand by families and side with families, but above all, I stand by the person we're talking about, even if that goes against the family in some cases. It's just, this one's hard. I do feel like it could be a mistake. And I say that not because I just want to like favor families. I've made those mistakes in high stress moments. And I can tell you that when you are going through something as unimaginable as your loved one going missing, and it just happened, those details slip right away. They really, really do. And when you're speaking with police and you feel like, I need to remember everything accurately, what happened, and that pressure's on, mistakes happen, you guys. And I don't think anybody is really their best in the face of something like this. Again, I don't know. I'm not Bonnie. I don't live inside her head. I don't know exactly what happened, but just from that perspective, and given that she did believe up until her death that Smith likely did this, I don't see a good reason that she would intentionally lie to the police about that. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened in true crime. On to media discrepancies. I thought about just skipping this section because there really weren't a ton, but I wanted to kind of like give credit where credit is due. Most news sources were fairly consistent in their reporting. So it felt like I needed to bring that to your attention to say like, hey, sometimes it seems like most of them get it right, even when a lot of the time they don't. So shout out to the media covering this case. It was fairly consistent and made it that much easier to cover the case. On to our hero of the episode. This was a tough one, I'm not gonna lie. There weren't a lot of like big standouts, so I gave it to Amber. Amber established the very tight timeline that she went missing in by calling her mom before leaving her friend's house, and she escaped a potential kidnapping from Daniel Smith and told 2 people about it. So I give hero of the episode to Amber for really, unfortunately, helping her own investigation without knowing it. So again, I just want to reiterate our CTA, our call to action. Please share Amber's case. I would love to see testing done again. That would be amazing. Please, 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 let's get some testing done if it hasn't already been done. But let's go on to our segment of hope. This is actually from a listener, Yamila. Thank you so much. I hope that I am saying your name correctly. She sent me an article from Gina Dvorak from First Alert 6 News in Omaha, Oklahoma. This is from February 12th, 2025, and it appears that investigators announced that they solved a 46-year-old double murder case. Abdul Malik Hussein, age 67, was charged with the deaths of 26-year-old Darisha Matthews and her 7-year-old son. Now, back on Tuesday, April 24th, 1979, you guys, this is an old one, officers responded to a report of a possible abduction and burglary. When they got to the home, it was completely ransacked, everything was trashed, and both mother and son were found deceased inside. But, as this is also relevant to Amber's case, recent DNA testing in the case led to his arrest. OPD Chief Todd Schmaderer said in a statement Wednesday, quote, "Murders are never forgotten, and justice has no expiration date. The depraved nature of this double homicide, one victim being a child, was bound to receive our utmost attention. Our commitment to these victims and their family never wavered." End quote. You guys, we love to see it. It's another case solved by some attention and just funding for testing, which I do want to bring your attention to an amazing nonprofit. As you guys know, I was on the board for many, many years of Season of Justice, and what they do over there is fund exactly that. They fund not only awareness campaigns for families for things like billboards, flyers, events, bus stop ads, whatever makes the most sense for their case in their area, but they also fund cold case testing for law enforcement. So if you are feeling generous, if you are able to give, if you're looking for a charity of choice, I definitely recommend Season of Justice, because they do exactly how this case was solved and exactly how, hopefully, one day, I hope Amber's case is solved. They have the DNA. They have the DNA. And I just hope that there's some further testing, since technology has advanced greatly since 2015. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.